explore this a bit further. And to do this, I'm going to refer to a few artworks. The first is one that I'm going to remake for you right now. It's an untitled work by Martin Creed, and it consists of a crumpled piece of paper sitting on a plinth. I don't have a plinth, but here's the Martin Creed, the sort of post-facto prototype of the Martin Creed. So this is an artwork in a Duchampian tradition that in a way outrages you by its minimalism, which is not the 60s minimalism that we might be familiar with, but rather the minimalism of inadequacy, the minimalism of a work of art that does not rise to the level of being worth looking at or indeed worth making or worth thinking about. But the fact that Creed is presenting that to you in an art context refers to that long history of ready-made that you all know about, and it in a way forces you to think in a kind of meta relationship to his practice. Why is he presenting this inadequate thing to you? Very similar to other works of his, like turning the lights off and on in the museum gallery, which of course won the Turner Prize, so not to be sneezed at probably. Another work that I'm now going to retrospectively prototype for you is by Tom Friedman, and it's this, and the title is A Piece of Paper Stared At for 1,000 Hours. The materials listed on the label for this piece, should you encounter it in a museum, are stare on paper. Now, this work seems to be a statement about commitment and almost fruitlessness, the fruitlessness of artistic labor. So more time has been spent in the making of this artwork than any of you would probably be willing to spend. And yet the object has not been changed at all. In fact, it is exactly identical to the object I have in my hand right now that I haven't stared at all. You all are staring at it. And if there were 1,000 of you, you stared at it for an hour, maybe I could get away with calling it the same thing that Friedman did, but he did it himself. So this is a work that you could say has an overdetermined relationship between labor and the results. This is a work that you could say has an underdetermined relationship. In other words, not enough, too much. Not enough work, not enough skill. Too much, not skill, but too much time spent, too much effort spent. And that, I would suggest, is why neither of these seem like craft objects. Somewhere in the middle, between these two works, we have what does seem like a craft object, and I'm now going to do one last retrospective artwork for you. This is another work by Tom Friedman, and I've not done it exactly, because the Tom Friedman is also entitled, and it consists of two exactly identical crumpled balls of paper. Exactly identical in every particular. These obviously aren't, they're both randomly crumpled, but you can imagine it. And one of the funny things about that work when you see it in a gallery is that first of all, you can't imagine how it could possibly have been done. Some extraordinary, almost magical feat of craftsmanship was required to make the second ball of paper. But also, fascinatingly, you don't know which was the first ball of paper and which was the second ball, which was the original and which was the identical copy. And therefore, you actually don't know where the craft has been expended, which is quite cool. But the point that I want to make is that it's in making the second ball of paper that you have a match between intention and then via the control provided by skill and work, results. Now, that has nothing to do with the conceptual content of the work, which arguably resides elsewhere, something about replication and something about artistic relationship to representation and replication in general. So I'm not saying that the speed of craft matches the speed of anything that you could think about what you're doing at all. What I am saying is that the speed of making that second ball, very much unlike the first one, which is too fast to think about, too fast to think through, but much slower than Friedman staring and not doing anything with a piece of paper, that's craft. And so I think, in closing, that if we think of ourselves as traveling down the superhighway and engaging in craft, it becomes immediately clear that that could happen in any kind of context. In, of course, studio craft processes like jewelry, furniture, ceramics, glass, metalwork, but also in design processes, as in the making of a prototype, and also in fine art processes. So this is an argument about the definition of craft that has nothing to do with category. It's rather a definition about